Hi, College and Career Success. This video is for Tuesday, April 7th, week 12, which means we are really winding our way down to the end of the semester here. So due tonight, just as a quick reminder, due by this evening to help me with week 11 attendance, was Chapter 6. You had two assignments inside Chapter 6. You had your Chapter 6 journal entry, which focused on the concepts of networking and how you or someone you know can use networking to help you with a career. And then your digital library takeaway, which was based on both the video that I posted as well as the video that Sarah has posted. And let me kind of go back out to where that is. I put it with our Tuesday class videos. You'll see that digital library video link because she links it to her own page. So again, the takeaway is not just a summary of what the digital library is, it's how you could use it or benefit from it as a student here. Okay, so again, those two assignments, Chapter 6 Journal and Digital Library Takeaway, are due tonight, Tuesday, April 7th, to help with week 11 attendance. All right, so today I am going to review Chapter 6, so I'll get into Chapter 6 again, and I'm going to pull up the slides for the chapters. I will be using these as a quick summary, and I am going to be showing you a couple different resources that I normally will do in the class period. I normally have lots of activities planned for this chapter, then I'm just going to have to cut some of those out. All right. So Chapter 6 started talking about creating an academic plan, knowing what courses you have to take, when you have to take them, which means knowing who your advisor is and meeting with your advisor. So if you do not already know, hopefully you do, but let's say you don't know who your advisor is. So to get, I think the quickest way maybe to get information on who your advisor is if you go into My Stark State and you go to My Stuff. You'll get to see that My Academic Plan, which I think we talked about a couple times face-to-face when we were still meeting. Yours will open up right away because you're a student here. Mine does not since I'm not a student. So I'm just going to do a quick search. And let's say, here we go, yours opened up right away. Here we go. So when you log into your My Academic Plan, your advisor information is right here. It has your advisor. Some of you may have two listed because you might have a career coach, a success coach, and then they have their advisor email. That's probably the easiest and best way to get to know who your advisor is. You're always welcome to go to the Gateway Center or the Returning Advising Center, but you're going to want to see who that main advisor is that you've been assigned to help you through. So knowing who your advisor is important, but then knowing kind of the requirements that are going to be asked of you in your program, knowing how many credits, how many major, minor, elective, all of that kind of stuff is important. Some of you may have to get a 4-year degree afterwards, so knowing that right now can help you do some planning. So if you are not familiar, at the Stark State College homepage, the top of the page here under academics, you will see a bunch of career communities where hopefully you see where yours would fall in. So let's say that I am in the business field, so I'm going to click on business and accounting. Once I get in there, I'm going to try to find the specific business kind of area that I am going to want to get into. So I can scroll all the way down to the bottom. If I'm not sure, that's what all of this up here is for. This is just kind of showing you some general information about the field. But all the way to the bottom on just about all of your pages then will be the actual degree plans that some of you might be going into. And let's say I am a finance major. So I'm going to click on finance. And this is going to get in just a little bit more specific as it relates to finance. I'm going to get who the department chair is that oversees this. I'm going to get a real quick overview. And then under courses, here's where I'm going to know, let's say I'm going part-time. This is what's going to tell me here are all the classes you have to take as of summer 2019. Now, they tend to update these every year, year and a half to maybe add or take away some classes. But this will kind of show me, well, if I'm in this field, I can expect to have 64 to 65 credits by the time I graduate. So that's a really nice helpful resource to know. It can also tell you, the degree that you'll be getting, and then if there's any additional information. You might also have some related programs over here that maybe can kind of tack on or be associated with, as well as if there's a connection to any other college. We have a lot of agreements with different colleges. So that is going to be how most of those pages will be set up. You'll be able to click in. Let's see if I click on a different one. You click in it, kind of same setup. I scroll down a little bit. Now here's all the majors and certificates even within this field. So I'll click on, maybe I'm getting a certificate. Then it's going to bring me to my course list again, and I can pull that up. I would really highly recommend, if you don't already know or have that somewhere, get that information so that you know exactly the kind of courses, how long it's going to take you, how many credits. All of that is so important. So that is one of the big benefits, knowing early on kind of the path, especially because some of your classes that you have to take may only be offered once a year. And so knowing when that's going to hit, is that going to be a fall or spring class, so that you can schedule accordingly. Also, Chapter 6 talked about online classes, which, like it or not, this is what we are now. We are synchronous, meaning we were asynchronous. We're not synchronous. We are asynchronous, meaning that we're kind of, maybe some of you are logging in the morning and some of you are in the afternoon. We're not synchronous, meaning we're not all here at the same day, same time. Some classes are designed like that by nature. And then Chapter 6 also talked about like different kind of learning opportunities where maybe you study abroad. Internships are more what you're going to find here at the college. There's a lot of internships that are posted. And then service learning is this marriage between what you learn in the classroom and then what you do in the community. So let's say, for example, a couple years ago we had a class. They were like early education, and they were talking about early education in literacy and picture books and how to use those. And so what the teacher did in the class is her college students wrote picture books, incorporating all the good features that picture books should have to be an educational tool. Then they took them to a local elementary school. I think this was in Canton City a couple years ago. They took them to a local elementary school, and they read to the kids, and they talked to them, and they kind of taught a lesson, and then at the end they donated the books to the classroom. So that's an example of like a service learning project. They took what they were learning in the classroom and then did something to benefit the community. Next, in Chapter 6, talked about career planning. And so while we're talking about career planning, I want to bring up, once again, I know we've already talked about them, career services, but I want to at least bring them up one more time. So I'm going to go back to the bottom of my Stark State homepage, and I'm just going to click on career services. Now, just because we're not on campus right now doesn't mean that you can't use these resources. Lena and Stan and Mandy, like, they're all still going to be available. Most of us have our extensions kind of forwarded to our phones here at home, so you can still call or email the career services, but at the very least, I encourage you to still kind of get online and check to see, okay, do I need to kind of brush up my resume? Is there a job fair coming up sometime, maybe in the fall or spring? What kind of internships are out there? So just kind of click around, get to know it. I encourage you to really use that resource. If not now, then definitely when we're back on campus in person, because ultimately we are here because you want a job, you want a career. So networking is part of that. That's what you wrote on in your Chapter 6 journal, was the kind of the power of networking, so to speak. So our non-journal assignment initially was going to revolve around a networking experience where we were going to do some speed networking together in class. I just can't come up with an alternate for that because it really was so reliant upon face-to-face and interaction there in the classroom. So there's not going to be a Chapter 6 non-journal. So I just kind of scrapped it. I didn't think there was a good substitute for what this really initially was supposed to do for us. But networking is still important. So knowing the power of networking, who you know, what you know, and who knows you, all goes into that networking. Part of that then, remember, networking and social networking are not always the same. They can overlap. Networking is often, again, like maybe who you've met at school or in a workplace situation or through a conference or a social club. And then there is social networking as well, which can be used for those purposes. But you want to be careful with your social networking because you want to make sure you're putting yourself out there as a professional presence, because employers do look at this information. They will look to see what are you posting on your social media sites. So as a kind of a little demonstration here. I pulled up this site. You've probably seen tons of things like this before. Some examples of people who were fired because of what they posted on their social media. So for instance, this waitress in North Carolina had listed where she worked and then went on because she was upset because her customers didn't tip her well. So she kind of badmouthed her customers. Her employer saw that on there and fired her. So that's the first tip, is don't list your place of employment on your social media. You can put what you do, but it's not recommended that you name the place in case something like that happens. This football cheerleader for the New England Patriots wrote swastikas and kind of hate speech all over a guy when he was passed out. She is no longer a cheerleader because they posted it on social media. Some other examples. This person said she was too sick to go to work, but her online activities showed up with her coworkers, and so she was fired just for that because she lied about being sick, and they said, well, if you're too sick to go to work, you're too sick to be on social media. There's lots of examples. This teacher put that she worked at the most ghetto school in Charlotte, and that, she's teaching chitlins in the ghetto of Charlotte. And so that's really, racially insensitive, not to mention just kind of a jerk thing to say. So she was fired from her position as a teacher. Another teacher, again, a lot of teachers get in trouble with social media. He was friends with students on social media, and a picture posted, he commented, "This is sexy." Yeah, not a great idea. He was fired. This teacher just posted pictures of her drinking alcohol on social media, and she was fired. Now, if you're teaching at like a private or maybe religious school, you do have contracts that say, certain ways you will or will not represent yourself. So that's more than likely the situation there. So there's just tons. This one kind of cracks me up. She really went into, she called her, obviously this is like in England, she called her boss a wanker, and then forgetting that her boss was actually one of her friends. And he basically said, and you're not working here anymore. So lots of examples of people who were using social media, and because of that, the way that they posted what they posted, and these are just Facebook examples, obviously like anything would fall into this category, whether it's Twitter, whether you're doing something goofy on TikTok, doesn't matter. Employers can get a hold of that, and that reflects poorly on them if they hire you. So just kind of a reminder to make sure that you are posting professionally. Or what a lot of people will do is they'll have two social medias. They'll have their personal and then they'll have their professional, where their professional will maybe say you're a teacher, it'll say like Mrs. Linda Remark, and then your personal is just your, Linda Remark, whatever the case is. So that might be something to look into. So making sure that you're a professional, look at your privacy settings, look at the photos that you're posting, who are you following, who's tagging you in photos. Also part of the networking is this thing called an elevator speech. So this is something else I would normally do in class with you. I'm going to say if you want to send me yours, you are more than welcome to. I'm going to show you an example of mine. But an elevator speech is typically 30 seconds to a minute, so pretty short. Kind of introducing yourself and talking about your key accomplishments as well as your goals. So that when you go to job fairs or these like speed interview type situations, you're not sitting there going, okay, what do I want to tell you? You have it in your proverbial back pocket. So here's my example of my elevator speech. My name is Linda Remark. I have a Bachelor of Science in Middle Childhood Education from the University of Akron, a Master of Arts degree in Integrated Teaching and Learning from The Ohio State University, and a Doctorate in Curriculum and Instruction from Kent State University. I have 15 years of teaching experience, the last 10 of which have been in the community college setting. I published on areas of reading anxiety and college developmental readers, fluency rates of college readers, and literacy practices of developmental reading students in the college setting. My current research interests around the impact of developmental reading courses on students as they progress into their college level coursework. Now, I've been in the field for a long time, so it's fairly easy for me to come up with an elevator speech. Some of you are at the very, very beginning, so it might be a little shorter, and that's okay. What you want to focus on is introducing yourself. Talk about, maybe your high school degree, or I am currently pursuing an Associate of Arts at Stark State College. Talk about, if you don't have any work experience yet, talk about the skills that you have. I am very flexible, I'm hardworking, I'm dedicated. You can pull that in. And then, because I'm not looking for a job at this point, I'm talking about my research, this is where you could say, I am looking for a position where I can, really display my fill in the blank. So that's kind of how you could break down an elevator speech. And it's not required, but this is something that in class I have my students write and send to me to give feedback on. So if you want to come up with a quick elevator speech, you saw mine was a paragraph long. So I wouldn't recommend any longer than that. So it shouldn't take you more than 30 seconds to a minute to go over your elevator speech when you talk to someone. But it's just a nice way to introduce yourself so that when you do meet potential employers, you're not scrambling like, oh, I have no idea what to say. You have a speech ready to go. So chapter 6 also talked about expanding your network, making sure that you are kind of taking the opportunities to maybe join clubs or organizations that are going to allow you to make those professional connections. And then they also go over some job search tips, which are also on our career services page. From there, it starts to wind up with financial planning, that financial management, talking about how to finance your education, knowing the difference between different scholarships, and if you haven't already, again, at the Sark State homepage, under admissions, paying for college, scholarships, pay attention to this page. Take a look to see. Often, a lot of the deadlines are coming up like in April for the next school year. Actually, yeah, today. So a lot of them are now, although you can start kind of looking, some of the other ones individually, if you look in here, they may have different due dates. Some of them are rolling. Maybe you can apply for them at any time. So just kind of take a look through there. I always encourage students to look in there. There's general scholarships, there's degree-related scholarships, and then there's like scholarships for specific kinds of groups of people. So take a look, even if it's $500, that is $500 less that you'll have to pay out of your pocket or in a loan package. So take a look at that and know how you can finance your education. Another part of this chapter talked about establishing good credit. So making sure that you have good credit. So what I'm going to encourage you to do is I have a page pulled up here. All I did was go to Google and type in free credit estimator. This is not going to pull your individual information. So I'm going to scroll down. Let's say my FICO is usually the one I direct students to. And again, you do not give your name, you do not give your social, nothing. It's completely free and it's estimated though. So that's kind of the thing. It's estimated. And apparently a whole bunch of people. Okay, there we go. So it's going to go through a series of questions. I'm just going to answer these willy-nilly here. How many credit cards? Let's say I have a crap load of credit cards, right? Let's say I got my first credit card. I just got it like 7 months ago. How long to get my first loan? I just started school, so let's say I just, again, like maybe last year. How many have I applied for? Oh, I want them all, so I applied for 6. Have I recently opened? Yeah, because I just did a new loan with my school loans, let's say. How many of your loans have a balance? Let's say quite a bit of them. Again, I'm just answering these really randomly. Besides mortgage, what your total balance is? Let's say because I took out school loans, if I'm a student, I'm going to have around $5,000. Did I miss? I've never missed a payment. Let's say I've never missed. Any of them past due? No. What percent of your total credit card limits? And some of these you may not know. I'm just going to there. Have I experienced bankruptcy? Let's say I'm not because I'm answering these as if I'm like 19. All right. So here's my estimated. That's pretty good for the way I answered, honestly. That's not too terrible of a credit score. Now, obviously, you want to answer as truthfully as possible. The higher your credit score, the better. Some ways that you can establish or hire your credit card is to obviously pay your bills on time. If you have student loans out, you can start paying on those right now. You can pay $10 a month. Even that, because after 6 months, that shows a credit history. So if you don't have any credit, you could get a small credit card out in your name, even if it's $250 limit, and just put gas on it. And then at the end of every month, make that payment. So there are different ways, putting utilities in your name, taking out a student credit card with a low interest, low limit rate. So lots of different ways. The key is to establish history. So make consistent payments. Even, again, if you're doing it on your student loans, which technically you don't have to pay back till after you graduate, you can start paying them now, which is going to help you after you do get done graduating. All right. So that is chapter 6 again in a nutshell, and I usually do a lot of activities in class, so I'm sad that we're not together for this. But what you're going to do, if you've kind of been looking at your syllabus, you'll know that chapter 6 does not have like an official quiz. It has a mini presentation. And that I do this because you're getting ready for your final presentation. Now, obviously, you are not going to be able to present this. You don't have to. It's not part of it. But what you're going to do, and you can see down here, mini presentation, I've already started it for you. So I'm going to have you open that up. It's going to open up into a PowerPoint. So I've already started the PowerPoint for you. So for Chapter 6, mini presentation, what you're doing is on page 167, I'm going to put that in there, page 167, you're going to answer 4 questions. There are 7 questions listed, and I went ahead and plugged in all of the questions already. So they're already there, but you can go back to page 167 in your text and take a look. But I already wrote them all in this PowerPoint. So what you want to do is, change this to reflect your presentation. So let's say, I'm going to go in here and I'm going to delete this part and I'm going to put your name there. And let's say you don't like question 1, so you're just going to delete that one. And you don't like question 4, so I'm going to delete that one. Or whatever ones you do not want to answer, just delete those slides completely until you only have the 4 questions you want to actually answer. And then just type your answer inside that box. If you want to get fancy, you can certainly come up with some, color. Add some color to it. You don't have to. I'm not expecting that at all. And it does this cool thing over here where it'll put some information in different ways for you, kind of like that. But you do not have to do that. It can be just exactly how it looked when I gave it to you. When you're done, please make sure you file, save as, and put it in your desktop or documents, wherever. And then you'll see there's a Dropbox. So you'll click inside the Dropbox, browse your computer, and find it. And it's taking the place of like a quiz, of a short answer quiz that you guys have had to do the last couple times. So that is your Chapter 6 presentation. It's kind of your quiz in presentation format. So again, this is due April 14th. It is a mini presentation. You will it'll open up into a PowerPoint, which I have already started for you. You are answering 4 questions on page 167. It's the intro to the chapter. There are 7 questions there. You are only picking 4. I already have them typed in and ready to go. You just decide which 4 you want to respond to. When you do your responses, so it's similar to a quiz, you're going to respond in 2 to 5 sentences. And I want you to try to incorporate text and, let's spell that correctly here, text and personal experience. What I mean by that is, let's say you answer question 2, which talks about service learning, internships, studying abroad. So you'll kind of talk and say, okay, well, the textbook says that these are great ways of learning. I want to do an internship one day because it can really help get my foot in the door. So you'll kind of incorporate a little bit of what the textbook says to a little bit of how you feel about the topic. So, the same thing, the social media. Our chapter says that you should have a very professional social media presence. I only have LinkedIn. It helps me link with other professionals in the field. So again, using what the textbook says to your personal experience and preferences. So that is due on April 14th. It is going to count as your week 12 attendance. Please download that PowerPoint that I've already started for you and put it in the Dropbox. So that is your week 12 attendance, Chapter 6 mini presentation, and it's going to help you practice for your final project, which is still going to be due at the end of the semester. So answer 4 of the questions listed either in the PowerPoint or you can refer to them on page 167. So make sure that you are addressing 4 of the 7 through the 2 to 4 questions. Let me pull up the one. There we go. The 2 to 5 sentences, 4 questions total. Incorporate text and personal experience. Due April 14th. Hope everyone's doing well. Talk to you later.